My friends, tonight the distant sound of a gavel and the bright lights of the Capitol may feel far from the warmth of our own firesides, yet their echoes still reach every living room, every porch, every quiet corner of this land. The State of the Union, once a moment of togetherness, now leaves many of us asking, what is true in the chorus of claims and cheers? Not all news is black and white. Still, the Republic can be saved by honest words and calm listening. Picture a family gathered around their kitchen table, half-eaten dinners cooling as the president's voice fills the air. Some nod with hope, others look down, worried or puzzled. One thing is plain. Each is searching for something they can trust. We heard great things promised, tales of booming jobs, falling prices, safer borders, new checks for veterans, a spiritual revival for the nation, and an end to old foreign wars. The president's voice was tall and proud, as it should be in our highest office. But now, let us pause and ask, when the facts come under dispute, who stands guard for the truth? This is not a question for politicians alone. It is for every citizen who wants the facts straight, the numbers honest, and the dignity of their daily struggle respected. Many tuned in hoping to hear good news about groceries or gas, yet wondered, does this match what we see at the store or the pump? The president declared prices were lower than before, but careful reporting tells a story not so clear. Groceries still pinch the wallets of working families, and the price at the gas station hovers well above the promise. But can a single speech fix what grows in our hearts? The answer is deeper than politics. It lives in the spaces between what is said and what is lived. Think of a worker clocking in at dawn, worried that his job may depend on numbers the politicians recite. He heard, "Jobs have never been higher." But then he sees his cousin laid off and wonders, how does that add up? Whose numbers tell the real story? Now picture a nurse walking the late shift, hearing talk of the lowest drug prices in the world. She knows her neighbor still splits her medicine in half to make the prescription last. Numbers on a screen cannot ease a family's choice at the counter. Here, the questions cut close to bone. If jobs are up and stocks have climbed, why then do so many feel left out by the numbers? This gap is not just economic. It is about belief in the very words of our leaders. But even in times of worry, the American spirit is steady. We have faced confusion before, the Great Depression, the dust storms, the shootouts of rumor and fear. Each time, we learned a simple lesson. Courage is not the absence of questions, but the character to ask them and seek honest answers, together. As the speech rolled on, new questions rolled in. We heard that crime was down, that our borders are safe, that new laws will protect the weakest among us. The president promised a miracle for Medicaid and a new day for veterans. But reality, my friends, does not always fit in the lines of a single speech. If crime is down, why does fear linger on city streets and small-town alleys? Why do mothers still check their doors twice at night? And why do neighbors keep watching out their windows? A statistic is not a shield against worry, not when headlines and sirens come too often for comfort. Here is another picture. A police officer walking his beat at dusk, passing families shutting off their porch lights. He knows numbers say violence is dropping, but he feels the worry in every handshake, every glance. The facts and the feelings are not always neighbors, and that unsettles us all. Into this swirl of facts and promises walks the story of our border. The president said fentanyl was down, but experts warn that what is caught at the border is only part of the tale. How much is still getting through? Who protects the family that waits, dreading a knock on the door or the bad news at midnight? But here I must stop and remind you, America's strength is her unity. We do not solve our problems by fear, blame, or by dividing neighbor from neighbor. We must seek truth, plain and steady, like the North Star that guided pioneers and soldiers alike. Let's look closer at what happens when truth is bent or stretched too thin. A claim that fraud alone can fix the budget, or that tariffs can replace all income taxes, might sound fine behind a podium. But not one honest economist, nor the nation's own accountants, finds those sums adding up. Not now, not ever. Can America find common ground when leaders disagree on even the simplest facts? This is the question that keeps many awake long after the address is over. Imagine a teacher in her empty classroom reading the news on her desk just before sunrise. She sees numbers about children insured or left behind. She wonders about a new law with a big name and bolder claims, and hopes none of her students falls through a crack hidden among all the promises. Here, friends, is where the real tension grows. If we stop expecting truth from our leaders, if we accept every bold word without question, we risk letting go of something much older and more precious than any promise, our faith in each other and in the possibility of honest government. We must ask ourselves, can a people still govern themselves if words lose meaning? If each speech sounds like a fairy tale and hard facts slip quietly away? There is a contradiction here that cannot go unnoticed. Our leaders speak of unity, but their numbers and claims do not unite. Instead, they can deepen suspicion. Picture now an old veteran, coat buttoned tight, walking past a shuttered storefront on Main Street. He listens to talk of a revived 4th of July spirit and a safe, proud nation. Yet he remembers ration lines and stock market dives and wonders if pride alone can pay rising rents or keep his medicine cabinet full. Whose America is being described on that shining floor of the Capitol? This is not cynicism, my friends. It is the hard habit of democracy, matching each claim against lived reality, not to tear down hope, but to build up trust. But how do we hold leaders accountable when stories split down the middle? When one party calls it a miracle and another calls it a mirage? Here is a puzzle we must not blindly accept. If all sides say they are truthful, yet every fact appears disputed, where then does a common story begin? That is a gap that can split a family, a neighborhood, even a nation. Imagine for a moment a small-town barber sweeping up at closing time. He has heard a dozen arguments about who's to blame for rising mortgages or why schools feel underfunded. He does not have time for fancy charts. What he needs, what all Americans need, is a plain map we can read together and a compass pointing north. But even as these questions mount, I tell you, America's candle for honest government is not yet snuffed out. Not so long as we demand more than comfort. Not so long as we meet each new promise with eyes open and voices steady. Let us look to history, a mirror and a warning. In the darkest days of depression, it was not the lack of riches that shook our soul, but the fear that no one in power would speak the plain truth. Yet, truth was found in breadlines, union halls, and parent-teacher circles by stubborn neighbors who would not let the numbers be twisted. They called for honesty, not to shame, but to heal. We are once again at such a fork in the road. If our leaders promise miracles with numbers that don't add up, and if we, the people, lower our standards for fact and fairness, even for a moment, then we risk passing on to our children something less than a true democracy. Recall the neighborly habit of checking twice. During rationing, every coupon was counted. No one pretended to have more than their share. If we could be honest when food was short, surely we can insist on honest numbers when the cost of bread or rent is up for debate. There is a line between patience and surrender. A republic can weather mistakes, a war gone poorly, a plan that fails. But it cannot endure if trust itself is chipped away, grin by clever grin, headline by headline. Think of a young couple sitting on the porch steps, the glow from their cell phone lighting worried faces. They scroll through prices, jobs, and distant headlines, searching for something solid beneath the flood of claims. They do not ask for perfection. They ask for decency, and for facts that match the world they walk in. Now let us not pretend there is a simple fix, or that one party owns the answer. I have seen partisanship grow so deep that reason itself is left by the roadside. But what makes this nation resilient, what made it outlast depression and war, is a stubborn belief that truth matters more than victory, and that real unity is built on shared fact, not shared slogans. Here is a final picture, a school gym after the polling booths have been packed away. Volunteers count ballots under the sharp light, arguing good-naturedly over close races, but always, always agreeing on one thing. The numbers must be honest, and the process must be seen. This, neighbors, is the fabric we must mend. A culture where questions are encouraged, where every speech is taken with 2 grains of salt, and where the simple dignity of our everyday struggle is honored by those who lead. For when truth is kept, hope survives. And so tonight, as the echoes of the address fade and the questions grow louder in our hearts, I urge you, let us keep asking, keep checking, keep demanding leaders who speak plainly, not for applause, but for the common good. This is how the Republic can be saved. Let us now walk in memory and in hope through the stories that have always kept this nation together. Imagine a grocer unpacking crates at dawn, a familiar ache in his knees, counting each apple and price tag by hand. He does not know what lawmakers negotiated behind closed doors, but he knows what costs moved this week and how his neighbors grumble or breathe easier on payday. The truth for him is measured out not on TV, but in his ledger and in quiet greetings between old friends. Why do so many Americans distrust what they hear, even when the charts sound hopeful? Because trust is not built in a speech. It is earned in the slow grind of daily life, paid in the coin of consistency and proven by sacrifice. If a leader's words fail to match the grocer's counter or the farmer's fence post, suspicion grows. Quiet, persistent, stubborn as crabgrass after a rain. Picture a parent holding an overdue bill, reading headlines that say, "All is well," yet feeling the pinch as days lengthen and budgets tighten. She listens for honesty in the president's tone. She looks for hope, but she needs facts more than reassurances. Her hope lives not in the grand gesture but in a pencil stub and a shopping list that must always add up. If our nation's leaders expect unity, they must accept this. Unity cannot be formed around a bluff. It comes from the shared, sometimes painful truth. Imagine now a gathering at a town hall. The benches are hard, the lighting harsh, but the questions flow easily. A mother asks why school lunches cost more, though officials say inflation is under control. A retired machinist wants to know how record job growth looks when his son's factory cut shifts. A recent graduate wonders about her future. Are these promises, or are they roadmaps? Here is a civic contradiction we must name. To heal division, we must allow for doubt. Real unity is not marching in step to a drumbeat we cannot hear. It is testing each measure, every claim, until it stands sturdy enough for all to share. America is not made weak by asking too many questions. It is made stronger by refusing easy comfort and demanding honest work. Let us not allow the bright glare of the Capitol to blind us to the dim light on the edge of town. Picture a main street at twilight, boarded up in places, yet alive with people hoping for something better. They have heard promises before, and they will hear them again. But what they really hope for is this: that what's said about jobs, crime, and prices will be true not just on paper, but in the pattern of their own lives. So what, then, can each of us do? Even in the smallest ways, we must be vigilant and fair. When we hear bold claims, let's take time to check, not as cynics, but as practical neighbors. If we find a gap, let's ask for better, not to shame, but to improve. If we see progress, let's celebrate, but only what's truly earned. Real citizenship is not passive. It asks us to be witnesses for each other, to hold leaders and even neighbors gently to account. America's strength is her unity, but that unity comes only when truth is shared. And as for our leaders, let them know that comfort and applause are less important than the sure, quiet trust of a people who can face both struggle and promise together. In hard times, it is this trust, patient, tested, and renewed, that rebuilds the national house after every storm. Picture a young man, just home from service, sitting with his father on a battered porch swing. They talk softly about the future. The old man says, "It's never been easy, but so long as we tell the truth, so long as we count every penny and hold fast to our word, we'll find a way." That, my friends, is the heart of our American story. Tonight, as the news fades and the flags are folded, the real work of democracy begins. In quiet kitchens, steadfast unions, in every handshake and honest word. If we carry on, demanding that truth and trust remain partners, The Republic can be saved, not by miracles in marble halls, but by millions of simple acts, asking, checking, hoping, holding on. So I leave you with this. What will you do tomorrow to close the gap between promise and reality? Will you test? Will you question? Will you listen well enough to help your neighbor see clearly? That is the calling of citizenship. That is how the Republic endures. We have faced confusion and hardship before, and we have come through, one honest word at a time. The Republic can be saved. But will we meet the test, steadily, faithfully together?